Premier Martial Arts family, it's Mr. Yates, your lead instructor at Premier Martial Arts in Lexington, Kentucky, the Hamburg location, the very first location here in Lexington, Kentucky. And I am very proud and glad to bring you our very first episode of our new podcast, the MatChat Podcast. Now, this podcast is going to be geared all towards you parents of all of our students here at Premier Martial Arts. Now, obviously, it's geared towards adults, so we're going to be having conversations where we talk directly to you. The kids get to have their talks every single day in class. We get to work with them directly all the time. But what's often hard to really get connected with sometimes is you, the parents. That alongside parents, this is also going to be extremely valuable information for our adult/teen students as well. So, with that being said, I am ready to jump right into it. Now, I do want to give you a little bit of information about what this podcast aims to do. First, I want to talk to you as parents and adult and teen students about these life skills in a capacity that's closer related to you. So we often as parents forget about all these morals and values and ethics that we're trying to instill in our children. And sometimes I think that we expect more than we actually teach. And sometimes I think it's because we just don't exactly know how. You know, sometimes we look at these certain life skills like respect and self-image and discipline, and we think, well, I just don't understand why they don't get it. Well, what's the example that they're seeing? And every single day, we see that more and more of the example that they leave home, when they go out to school and they go out into the world, the examples at which they get to follow outside of the home are getting worse and worse. So it's on us as parents and leaders to ensure that our kids and our students have the most successful path possible. And we're going to help pave that way by being those examples. Now, Mr. Yates is by no means trying to sit here and act like a saint, because I am a father of 2 children as well, and every day I struggle to make sure I'm setting that example. But that's the whole point. We work hard as parents every day to set that example. So, on this podcast, not only are we going to be talking about those MatChats and how they relate to us as adults, also my plan is to bring in high-ranking martial artists from Premier Martial Arts, so they can come down, talk to us, maybe local leaders like teachers, law enforcement, firefighters, maybe local government, so we can sit down and talk about really what it is that we're trying to do here at Premier Martial Arts. And our main goal, obviously, is to create strong, healthy, confident, self-sufficient individuals starting from a young age, which is a dying skill, and we here at Premier Martial Arts are making it our goal and mission to create the best black belts the world has ever seen. The most disciplined, the nicest and most courteous, as well as the best defenders that we can possibly make. So with that being said, let's jump right into episode number 1, where we are starting with this month's MatChat that we're currently in, which is respect. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about this today specifically, especially, I think it's really good to start the podcast off with, simply because it's one of the, in my eyes personally, biggest things that is lacking in modern society and how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. We're so far removed from things like waving at your neighbor. You know, I remember growing up as a kid and walking down the street or biking, and if, I saw my neighbor and they were mowing their yard, they would literally stop right there, or they would take that hand off the mower in one hand and wave and smile. And that's not something that you see all the time anymore. Everyone's always stuck in their phones, or they're in some sort of digital relationship. And we lack that eye-to-eye contact that's so important, that one-on-one interaction that's so very, very important. So respect really boils down to one thing, and we all know it. We treat others how we want to be treated, right? And so I think that sometimes as parents, that's a concept that's often lost on us when it comes to our kids. And when I say that, what I mean is that, for example, I expect all of my students to say yes, sir. No, sir. I expect them when they're at home, when they're talking to mom and dad, to say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That's what I expect out of my students. I expect them to walk around and always maintain that courtesy and that respect when they're talking and interacting with other people. Now, Here's the thing though, I don't want them to just do that with adults. I want them to do that with everybody. They need to be saying that to their friends, that even at school and their friends that they play with. It may sound silly, but if they get used to respecting and having that kind of protocol with everyone they interact with, they will never be the one who initiates a negative reaction, because they're always going to be respectful no matter who they're talking to. Honestly, how crazy would it be if you walked up to your buddy, or rather, walked up to, you're picking up your kid at their friend's house, and their friend yelled at them from inside the house as they were running to the car, and they said, "Hey man, am I going to see you next weekend?" And they said, "Yes sir," and they got in the car, and then you were like, "What?" And you're probably confused at why they would do it, but again, it's going back to that respect thing. Treat everyone how you want to be treated. So when I say that this is lost on us, I think sometimes with our own children, is how many times have you as a parent, and again, I'm not saying this like I'm not guilty of it myself. I often have to check myself and remember that what I expect, I also have to deliver, right? So how many times have you as a parent looked at your son or daughter and said, "Yes ma'am, yes sir, no ma'am, no sir. Hey dad, may I go outside and ride my bike?" "Yes sir." "Hey, I don't have a debit card, so can I give you this $5 and get $5 for Roblox for my game?" "Yes ma'am." Or, "Hey, are we going over to so-and-so's house this week?" "Oh, no, sir. We're busy that week." How do you think that would change the dynamic of what your kids would deliver to you in reference to what you expect? Because again, we expect them to use that kind of protocol and that respect with us, but how often are we doing it to them? So we want to reciprocate exactly what we expect. We want to give out what we want to gain, just like treating others the way we want to be treated. It's a very simple concept, but often when we're trying to teach that lesson, we forget that we are the primary example. So I challenge you as parents for the rest of this week and beyond, so especially while we're doing this MatChat, to go out of your way to show the same level of respect to your children that you expect from them. And I guarantee, because I've seen it from success of myself and parents and the countless students that I've taught, when a mom and dad, when they show that same level of respect at which they expect from their children give it back tenfold. Because there's one thing that we forget as parents often, is that our children are just like us, and we are just like them, as well as we are just like any other child, and any other child is just like us as an adult. And what I mean by that is the only true difference between a child and an adult is that one's older and has more knowledge. That's it. We were all just babies. It was a very, very powerful statement that I've heard before, was we were all babies, and we're still just babies. We're still all learning every single day. So, with that being said, while our children are learning, they're learning the most from us. At least that's where they should be learning most of the things from, right? They should be learning from us. So let's make sure that we are that example every single time, not only to the people that are constituents of ours, our same age group and things like that, but everyone below that age group as well. We want to make sure that that protocol, that respect, that courtesy is always being shown, no matter who we are talking to. Even if you're talking to the neighbor kid, or your kids, or maybe even a baby. The sooner you get used to using that protocol with everyone else, the easier it is for your children to follow that same example, because they see it in everything that you do. Remember, we can never expect our children to be any better than the example that we set. It starts with us, and if the example starts out bad, well, it's going to be more difficult for them. But the fact that you're a part of this premier martial arts family means that's not your goal. It literally means that you're here to be that example for your children, that you want to learn, and you want to make sure that they have the best path forward to success as possible. So with that, I'm going to leave you right there. I am Mr. Yates, the premier martial arts in Hamburg, Lexington, Kentucky, lead instructor, and I am again very excited about presenting this very first episode of the MatChat Podcast. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday when we will actually be bringing on Miss Whitney Scott, the owner here at Premier Martial Arts. And just to give you a little bit of background on her, she's not a martial artist at all. She actually happens to be a mother of two who is very, very interested and excited about learning how the martial arts world changes lives and believes that it can help so much that she was willing to dive in and open up a martial arts school right here in her hometown. So I can't wait to see you guys next Wednesday for episode number 2, where we interview Miss Scott and her journey to opening up a martial arts school. I am Mr. Yates. This has been the MatChat Podcast, episode number 1. We will catch you next time.